Now that Florence has left the region, officials are trying to rebuild or repair infrastructure. Everything from power lines to roads to dams. It's a big job. The North Carolina Department of Transportation posted this drone footage of Interstate 40 near Pender County, declaring the highway impassable and unsafe to travel. Similar scenes are playing out in hundreds of other locations. On the phone now, Brigadier General Diana Holland with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers joins us. She is the commander of the South Atlantic Division, and she's joining us now from Raleigh, North Carolina. General, thanks so much for being with us. You have had a chance to assess the damage from this storm. What is most concerning to you?
Well, good evening, Elaine. Thank you for having me on your program. Today I had the opportunity to fly by helicopter from Raleigh, North Carolina, and over to Wilmington, North Carolina, and it was really striking. The closer we got to the coast, the amount of flooding was just really noticeable. The water levels are very high, and of course, as your meteorologist just noted, they're going to continue to rise as the runoff works its way down the rivers.
And a number of dams we know are at or near capacity after the storm. Are there any specific ones that worry you the most?
You know, the state is keeping an eye on that. In both North Carolina and South Carolina, the state is watching their dams very, very closely. We are standing by to assist them. If they have dams that they'd like us to help provide technical advice on, we do that. And we have done that to a handful. There was one dam in North Carolina a couple days ago, the Sanford Dam, that did fail. It's a private dam, affected the local area, but we will see, as the water continues to rise and then recede, we'll know more.
And what is the protocol? How do you deal with dams that may be close to failure?
Well, there's a number of steps we can take. The state can bring in sandbags. They can bring in, they can shore up the foot of the dam, the toe of the dam. They can do some controlled releases, they can do some controlled releases so that to relieve the pressure on the reservoir. So there's a number of things they can do. But the most important thing, obviously, for all of our infrastructure is to maintain it ahead of time and do all the technical assessments ahead of time. And both of these states have done that. So we all have a pretty good understanding of where their critical infrastructure is at.
What about when you look at some of the roadways here that have been flooded? Transportation is obviously an issue. We've been hearing from our reporters about how, for instance, in Wilmington, you're essentially cut off depending on how high the tide is. But when you have a road that's been flooded over, how do you know if it's even structurally sound and is able to sort of maintain the integrity to allow things like heavy trucks and equipment to roll into these affected areas?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And that's, the state police will shut the road down, and it's very important that everybody follow those instructions and give everyone time, give the experts the time to, when they open the road, get in there, check the structure, and make sure it's not compromised from underneath. All this water is causing erosion on the sides of the roads, and so you don't know what the integrity is underneath the surface. And so the states follow that protocol pretty well, and at times we help them out.
And I know, General, you said you had a chance to fly around and take a look from the air on your ride from Raleigh to the Wilmington area. Is there any sense at all, based on what you have seen, about how long it might take to recover from the aftermath of a storm like this?
It would be hard for me to estimate. We really have to see what happens once the water recedes and moves out to the ocean, and really do the assessments then. It will be some time before we have a good idea of how long this is going to take. The other thing I should mention about the flyover is you could tell it was a big rain event and not as much a wind event. When we see large wind events, you see a lot of roof damage. It's very apparent from the air. And so we didn't see as much of that as we have in previous years after hurricanes. But again, the closer you get to the coast, in addition to the flooding, is where you start to see the trees toppled over and some damage to homes.
Still very much a lot of difficult work ahead. Brigadier General Diana Holland with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Elaine. Have a good night.
You too.